A single billionaire father finds two poor twin girls sleeping inside his car. They say, "We're so cold." When he hears their story, he falls to his knees, crying. Logan finished reviewing the financial reports and looked out the window of his office. The snow had been coming down heavily for 3 hours, covering the entire city in a white blanket. Most of the employees had already left early because of the weather, but he always stayed late to make sure everything was in order at the company. It had been this way since Sarah died, working until exhaustion, coming home, having dinner with Ivy, putting her to bed and sitting in the living room until sleep came. A safe, predictable routine. Exactly what he and Ivy needed to move forward. He put the documents in the drawer and grabbed his coat. Outside, the snow was still falling in that way that makes the whole world go quiet and white. Logan went down to the ground floor and walked toward the company parking lot. The parking lot was almost empty. Only a few cars covered in snow, looking like small white mountains scattered across the asphalt. Logan walked to where he had parked his car, brushing the snow off the windshield with the sleeve of his coat. That's when he saw something strange. There were two small silhouettes in the back seat of his car, the windows fogged up on the inside. Logan stopped in mid-step. His heart began to race. What the hell? He approached slowly, his boots crunching in the fresh snow. When he got closer to the rear window, he could see better through the frosted glass. Two little girls, twins, for sure. Identical faces, tangled and dirty blonde hair, clothes that seemed too worn and shabby. One was hugging a stuffed bear, missing an ear. They were huddled close together, shivering from the cold. Logan looked around. The parking lot was completely empty. No adult waiting for them. No car with its engine running. Just the falling snow and two children in the back seat of his car. He gently tapped on the glass with his knuckles. The girls woke up startled. The one holding the bear began to cry softly, but not too loudly. The other just looked at him with big blue eyes, as if she was used to being woken by strangers. Logan opened the door slowly, careful not to scare them anymore. "Hi," he said, softening his voice. "Are you okay in there?" The one who hadn't been crying moved first. She sat up and pulled her sister closer to her. "We're so cold," she said. Her voice was small but steady, as if she felt responsible for both of them. "We lost our mother. We have nowhere to go." The words hit Logan in the chest like a punch. He knelt down to be at their level, resting one hand on the car door. "How did you get in my car?" "The door wasn't locked," the same girl replied. "We got in because it was too cold outside. We just wanted to get away from the snow." Logan looked at them more closely. Their clothes were wet and dirty. Their lips were a bit purple from the cold. They were shivering, even inside the car. The one who had been crying had stopped, but was still sniffling softly and hiding behind her sister. "Where is your mother?" The girl who had been speaking swallowed hard. Her eyes grew even bigger and sadder. She doesn't wake up anymore." The world stopped for a second. Logan felt that familiar pain tighten his chest, the same pain he felt every time he remembered Sarah in her hospital bed. Too quiet, unable to open her eyes. "How long have you been alone?" "2 days," she answered quickly, as if she'd told the story many times. "We slept in the park yesterday, under the slide. But today it was too cold and the snow didn't stop." Logan couldn't think clearly. He didn't want to think. If he stopped to analyze the situation, he might change his mind. Maybe he'd remember he had responsibilities, that he had Ivy, that his life was already complicated enough without 2 unknown children. "You're coming with me," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'll take you somewhere warm." The girls looked at each other. The one holding the bear whispered something in her sister's ear. Logan couldn't understand, but he sensed they were deciding whether they could trust him. "You won't hurt us, right?" asked the one who had been speaking. "No," Logan replied without hesitation. "I promise I won't hurt you." "You really promise?" "I promise." They climbed out of the back seat and moved up to the front seat. Logan started the car and turned the heater all the way up. He adjusted the rearview mirror so he could see them while driving. "What are your names?" "I'm Emily," said the one who had spoken so far. "She's Nora. She doesn't talk much to people we don't know. I'm Logan, and don't worry, you're safe now." On the drive home, Logan tried to process what was happening. 2 unknown children in his car, Two children who had lost their mother, just like Ivy had. Two children who needed help, and he was the only person who could help at that moment. Sarah had always wanted more children. They'd tried for years after Ivy was born, but it never worked out. Maybe it's meant to be this way, Sarah used to say after another negative test. Ivy is perfect. Maybe she's all we need. Now Sarah was gone, and two little girls had appeared in his back seat, as if they'd fallen from the sky during a snowstorm. "Logan," Emily called from the back seat. "What's up? Do you have food at your house?" His heart tightened again. He pictured the two of them hungry, sleeping in the cold, with no one to care for them. "Yes, I do. And hot water so you can take a bath too." "It's been a long time since we had a hot bath," Emily said softly. When they arrived home, Logan parked in the garage of his mansion and looked at the large house he and Ivy had shared on their own for 2 years, a house that had grown far too quiet since Sarah died, where the only noise most nights was the television or Ivy playing alone in her room. "You girls stay here for a minute," he said to them. "I'll see if my daughter is awake." "I don't want to scare her." He entered through the kitchen door. The house was dark except for a small hallway nightlight that Ivy always left on because she was afraid of the dark. Logan climbed the marble stairs slowly, stepping on the steps he knew wouldn't make noise, a habit he'd developed to avoid waking Sarah when he came home late from work. Ivy's bedroom door was ajar, as always. She was sleeping on her side, hugging the pink stuffed rabbit Sarah had made for her on her last birthday. The rabbit had long ears and had popcorn embroidered on its belly. Logan went back down and returned to the garage. The girls were exactly where he'd left them, quiet and curled up in the back seat. "You can come out now," he said. "Let's go inside." They followed him to the main living room. Logan turned on just one lamp in the corner so as not to make much noise and wake Ivy. The girls looked around with wide eyes, clearly impressed by the size of the house. "You must be starving." Emily nodded. Nora still held the one-eared bear and looked around as if trying to memorize every detail. In the large kitchen, Logan made 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, the same snack Ivy loved. He warmed 2 cups of milk in the microwave, careful not to make noise, and went back to the living room. The girls ate as if they hadn't seen food in weeks. Maybe it had been almost that long. "Where did you live before you were alone?" Logan asked as they ate. "In a small apartment with our mom," Emily replied between bites. "But Mom's boyfriend used to yell a lot. Mom got sick and he got even angrier with her." "What kind of sick?" Emily made a sad face. "She got very tired. She couldn't get out of bed. Then he would call her lazy and yell at her. We'd hide in the bedroom when he shouted." Logan felt anger rising in his chest. Kids shouldn't have to know men who yell. They shouldn't know what it's like to hide in fear inside their own home. "Where is that man now?" "I don't know. When Mom didn't wake up anymore, he said he wouldn't take care of us, that we had to fend for ourselves because he wasn't our dad." "You're safe now," Logan said, and when he said it, he realized he truly believed it. "No one will yell at you here." After they finished eating, Logan brought soft pillows and expensive blankets from the closet. He set up a cozy spot on the large living room sofa. "You can sleep here tonight," he said. "Tomorrow we'll talk more and figure out what to do." Emily lay down first and reached out for Nora to cuddle up next to her. The two of them nestled under the soft blanket, looking even smaller than they really were. "Logan," Emily called softly. "What's up?" "Thank you for not leaving us in the snow." He felt that lump in his throat that he hadn't felt in a long time, the same lump he used to feel when Sarah would hug him after a tough day and say everything would be okay. "Sleep well, girls." Logan went up to the master bedroom and lay down on the king-size bed that still felt too big without Sarah. He stared at the high ceiling, thinking of her, thinking of Ivy, thinking of the 2 little girls sleeping on the living room sofa. Something had changed in this house. He could feel it in the air, in the silence that was no longer quite so silent. Sarah's always complained that the house was too quiet. "A mansion this size needs more people," she used to say when they were still trying for another child. "This house was made for a big family, Logan. It's waiting for more life." Now there were 4 people in the house, and Logan couldn't stop thinking that maybe Sarah had something to do with all of this, that maybe she had somehow sent those 2 little girls to him. Early the next morning, Logan woke to the familiar sound of Ivy coming down the marble stairs. She always woke early on Saturdays to watch cartoons in the living room before he got up. He came down behind her and reached the living room just as Ivy stopped midway, staring at the sofa where Emily and Nora were still sleeping, cuddled together. Ivy looked at him with an expression he'd never seen before. It was surprise, confusion, and something that looked like fear mixed with anger. "Dad?" she whispered, as if she didn't want to wake the girls but needed an immediate explanation. The twins woke at the sound of her voice. Emily sat up first, rubbing her eyes. Nora stayed lying down, but opened her eyes and looked at Ivy over the stuffed bear. "Hi," Emily said to Ivy with a small, shy smile. Ivy took a step back, moving closer to Logan. "Dad, who are they? Why are they in our living room?" Logan knelt down to be at her level, placing his hands on his daughter's small shoulders. "They're Emily and Nora. They were cold and needed somewhere to sleep." But you always said that," Ivy began, but then stopped. Tears filled her eyes, which she tried to hold back. "You promised that after Mum died, it would just be the two of us. You promised—" Logan felt his stomach knot. Ivy was right. He had promised exactly that. On the night of Sarah's funeral, when Ivy asked if they would always be alone, he said yes, that it would just be the two of them against the whole world always. "Ivy, honey, you lied," she screamed, forgetting to keep her voice down. "You said it would just be the two of us." Before Logan could say anything, Ivy ran upstairs. The sound of her bedroom door slamming echoed through the entire house. Logan looked at the twins, who watched in silence. Emily had a sad expression on her face, as if she was used to not being welcome. Nora shrank even more and hid her face in the stuffed bear. "She doesn't like us," Nora said, the first thing she'd spoken since arriving in the house. "She was just surprised," Logan said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "She didn't expect to find you here." He went up to Ivy's room and knocked gently on the door. "Ivy, let Daddy in so we can talk." "No, go away." "Sweetheart, let me explain what happened." "You promised," she yelled from the other side of the door. Her voice trembled with sobs. "After Mom died, you said it would always be just the two of us. You lied to me." Logan pressed his forehead against the wooden door. Ivy was completely right. He had promised that, on the hardest night of her life, when she asked if they would always be alone, he had said yes, that it would always be just the two of them. "Ivy, the girls don't have a family. They lost their mother, just like you did. They need help." Silence on the other side of the door. "It's only temporary," he continued, even though he wasn't sure if it was true. "Just until we figure out what to do with them. I don't want to share you with anyone." Her voice came muffled. She was probably burying her face in the pillow. "Mom is already gone. Now will you love them more than me?" "I won't love you any less, Ivy. You are my daughter." "Nothing will change that. But now you're going to have other daughters too." Logan stood there, unsure what to say. From downstairs, he could hear Emily softly talking to Nora, probably trying to calm her. For the first time since Sarah died, Logan felt he had a purpose beyond just waking up every day and moving forward. Those two little girls needed him. But Ivy needed him too, and now he had to figure out how to take care of all three without losing any of them. He went down to the living room. Emily and Nora were sitting on the sofa, quiet as two wounded birds. "Are you hungry?" he asked. Emily nodded. Logan went to the kitchen and decided to make pancakes, something he hadn't done since Sarah died because it was too much work for one person. But now, there were 4 people in the house, even if one of them was locked in her room. The sweet smell of pancakes filled the house. Logan remembered Sarah making pancakes on Sunday mornings, humming softly as she cooked. He remembered little Ivy clapping her hands on the table every time she smelled them. For the first time in a long while, Logan wasn't just surviving the day. He was doing something that felt like a real home, even though he didn't know how to explain it all to Ivy yet, even though he didn't know if he was doing the right thing. But deep in his chest, where once there was only an empty hole, Logan felt something new and warm growing, something alive, like a small flame someone had just lit. Sarah always said that life had a funny way of giving second chances when you least expect it. Looking at Emily and Nora sitting at the kitchen table, eating pancakes as if it was the best thing in the world. Logan thought maybe Sarah was right about that too. The girl's pain had awakened something inside him, something he believed was dead since he lost his wife. It was as if his heart had started beating for real, for the first time in 2 years. Upstairs, Ivy remained locked in her room. Logan respected her silence, knowing something had started to shift in the house, and he knew he needed patience for everything to fall into place. It had been 3 days since Emily and Nora arrived at the house. 3 days of Ivy eating in silence, coming downstairs only to watch TV, and running back up every time the twins came into the living room. Logan tried to keep the peace. In the morning, he took Ivy to school as usual. In the afternoon, when they came back, the girls were in the living room playing with the few toys he'd lent them, some old toy cars and a few coloring books he found in a drawer. On that Saturday morning, Logan was in the kitchen making coffee when he heard little footsteps coming down the stairs. Emily appeared first, followed by Nora, who still carried the one-eared bear everywhere. "Good morning," Emily said, already feeling more at ease in the house. "Good morning, girls. Did you sleep well?" Emily nodded. Nora just approached the table and stared at the pancakes Logan was making. "Is Logan going to give us coffee?" Nora asked softly to Emily. "Of course he is," Logan answered with a smile. "You're my guests." Ivy came down not long after, already dressed in the pink pajamas Sarah had bought for her last Christmas. She stopped at the kitchen entrance when she saw the twins sitting at the table. "Good morning, Princess," Logan said to her. Ivy didn't respond. She sat in the chair farthest from the girls, on the other side of the table, and picked at her plate without really eating. Every time Emily or Nora made any noise, she shot irritated glances their way. After breakfast, Logan went upstairs to shower. When he came down, he found the house in silence. Ivy was in the living room watching cartoons, sitting in the individual armchair far away from the sofa. Emily and Nora were nowhere to be found. "Ivy, where are the girls?" "How would I know?" she replied, without taking her eyes off the TV, her voice filled with irritation. Logan searched the house. He found the two of them in the hallway on the second floor, standing in front of Ivy's bedroom door. Emily was on tiptoe, trying to see something through the crack in the slightly open door. "What are you doing up here?" "We wanted to see her room," Emily answered honestly. "It must be very pretty." Nora nodded, hugging the bear. "We just wanted to see how it is," she said softly. Logan understood. 2 girls who had lived in a small apartment, who'd slept in the park, must be curious about a real kid's room, full of toys, books, and a bed just for one. "Do you want me to ask Ivy if she'll let you come in?" Emily shook her head quickly. "No need. We were just looking." But at that moment, quick footsteps came up the stairs. Ivy appeared in the hallway and saw the 2 girls standing outside her door. Her face turned bright red with anger. "What are you doing up here?" she asked, her voice already raised. Emily took a step back, startled by her tone. "We were just looking." "You can't come in," Ivy shouted, standing in front of her door like a guard. "It's mine." Her words came out so forcefully that Emily and Nora were frightened. Nora hid behind her sister, gripping the bear tightly. "We weren't going to enter," Emily said quickly. "We were just looking." "Well, don't look," Ivy continued, shouting. "It's my room." "My things. You can't touch anything that's mine." Logan approached slowly. "Ivy, they weren't messing with anything." "They were spying," Ivy yelled even louder. "Everything here is mine. My toys, my room, my house, my daddy." And with that, she went into her room and slammed the door so hard that the sound echoed through the house. Logan heard the key turn in the lock. Ivy had locked the door from the inside. Emily and Nora stood in the hallway, staring at the closed door. Logan saw that familiar look in their eyes, the look of someone used to being rejected. Emily took Nora's hand. "Come on, Nora, let's go downstairs." "Did we do something wrong?" Nora asked Logan softly as they went down the stairs. "No," Logan replied, his heart heavy. "You didn't do anything wrong," but he knew the words weren't enough. Emily and Nora sat on the living room sofa, quieter than usual. Nora hugged the bear, and Emily stared at her own hands. Logan went upstairs and knocked on Ivy's door. "Ivy, I need to talk to you." "I don't want to talk." "Honey, They're just kids. They were curious. I don't care. I didn't ask them to live here. I want them to go away. Logan pressed his forehead against the door. He knew Ivy had one right point. She really hadn't asked for this situation. But he also knew Emily and Nora were not to blame for anything. Ivy, you have so many toys in your room. Maybe you could lend them a few. No, they're mine. Mom bought them all for me. Just for me. And there was the real problem. Every toy, every book, every object in that room was a reminder of Sarah. To Ivy, sharing anything was like sharing her mother. Logan went down and found the girls exactly where he'd left them. Emily was trying to play with Nora, but it was obvious the two of them were sad. Girls, how about we go out for a bit? Emily looked at him, surprised. Go out where? To the city. Buy a few things. Actually, Logan had an idea. Something that might help Emily and Nora feel less like intruders and more like, well, like children who deserved to have things of their own. They left Ivy at home. She refused to unlock the door even when Logan knocked to let her know they were leaving. Emily and Nora climbed into the car, still a bit shy but clearly excited about the idea of leaving the house for a while. Logan drove to the nearby shopping mall. It was Saturday afternoon and the place was full of families shopping. Emily and Nora walked beside him, looking around with wide eyes. I've never been to a place like this, Emily commented softly. It's so big, Nora whispered. Logan took them straight to the toy store. When they walked in, the girls stopped at the entrance, impressed by the rows of shelves, the colors, and the countless toys. You can choose whatever you want, Logan said. Emily looked at him, confused. Choose what? Toys. Anything you like. But we don't have money, Emily said, as if it were obvious. Logan knelt down to be at their level. You don't need to worry about money. I want to buy something for you. The girls looked at each other as if they couldn't believe it. Anything, Nora asked. Anything. Emily took Nora's hand and the two began to walk slowly through the aisles. Logan followed, watching how they examined everything carefully, as if it were treasure. They stopped in the doll section. There were hundreds of them, big dolls, small dolls, dolls that talked, that cried, that came with clothes and accessories. Emily pointed to a simple doll with brown hair and a blue dress. That's pretty, she said to Nora. Nora nodded, but she was looking at another similar doll, one with blonde hair and a pink dress. Do you want these? Logan asked. Emily looked at him, still incredulous. Can we really choose? You can. Logan picked up both dolls and took them to the checkout. Emily and Nora followed quietly, still seeming unable to believe what was happening. When they came out of the store, each carrying a bag with her new doll, the girls were radiant. In the car, Emily hugged her bag to her chest. Logan! What's up? Why did you buy this for us? The question took Logan by surprise. He thought of all the answers he could give, because they needed it, because it was fair, because every child deserves toys. Because you deserve it, he said simply. When they arrived home, Ivy was in the living room watching TV, sitting in the same single armchair, away from the sofa. She looked at the bags Emily and Nora were carrying, and Logan saw her face tighten even more. Ivy, the girls got some dolls, Logan said, trying to include her in the conversation. Ivy didn't respond. She crossed her arms and turned her face back to the TV, clearly irritated. Emily and Nora sat on the opposite side of the living room floor, far away from Ivy, and took their dolls out of the boxes. Emily pulled her doll out and hugged it. She's so soft, she said to Nora. Nora did the same with hers. Then she looked at Emily with bright eyes. Is she really ours? Forever? She's ours, Emily confirmed. And then, to Logan's surprise, the two began to cry. It wasn't sadness crying, it was pure joy crying. Two girls who probably had never had a new toy before, crying because they finally had something all their own. Does she have a name? Nora asked, looking at her blonde doll. Can we give her a name? Emily asked Logan. Of course you can. Emily thought for a moment. I'll call mine Rose. Nora looked at her doll and smiled. Mine will be Lily. Rose and Lily, Emily repeated, just like us. They'll be sisters too. Logan felt that familiar lump in his throat. 2 years after Sarah's death, 2 little girls had brought back something to his home that he thought he'd lost forever, the sound of children being happy. He looked at Ivy. She still sat in the armchair, pretending to watch TV. But Logan noticed she had turned the volume up and was trying not to look at the girls. There was something tense in her posture. Her shoulders were stiff, her jaw tight. Ivy was jealous. But she was also fighting against something else, a part of her that wanted to look, that was curious about the dolls and the girls' joy. But she stayed distant, determined not to show any interest. Emily and Nora played with their dolls for the rest of the afternoon. They invented voices for them, created stories, made Rose and Lily talk to each other. Logan stayed in the kitchen but could hear laughter coming from the living room. Ivy remained in the armchair, increasingly tense. Every time the girls laughed louder, she turned up the TV volume. Logan could see she was fighting an internal battle. A part of her wanted to join, but jealousy and anger were stronger. When night fell and Logan called the girls to dinner, Ivy finally got up from the armchair and went straight to the kitchen, without looking at Emily and Nora even once. During dinner, she ate in absolute silence, avoiding any eye contact with the twins. When Emily tried to talk to her about the dolls, Ivy simply pretended not to hear. After dinner, Logan helped Emily and Nora prepare the sofa for sleeping. The two lay down, each hugging her new doll. "Good night, Rose," Emily whispered to her doll. "Good night, Lily." Nora did the same. Ivy walked through the living room without saying goodnight and went straight to her bedroom, slamming the door behind her. Logan turned off the lights and went upstairs. He found Ivy lying in bed, but she was clearly not sleeping. "Good night, Princess," he said softly. "Good night," she answered curtly without looking at him. Logan stood in the doorway for a moment, watching his daughter. He could feel the tension radiating from her, the internal struggle she was facing. He went downstairs to get a glass of water and passed through the living room. Emily and Nora slept curled up, each holding her doll. In the dark, they looked even smaller and more fragile. Logan knew Ivy had watched everything that happened that day. She had seen 2 girls her age cry tears of joy over 2 simple dolls. She had witnessed what it meant for someone to receive something for the first time. Even keeping her distance, even with all the jealousy, Logan was certain something had changed in Ivy's expression when she saw the girls' tears of happiness. Going up the stairs, Logan felt confident for the first time in days. Time would change everything. He just needed to be patient and let things happen naturally. Ivy had spent the whole day watching Emily and Nora, even from afar, and deep in her daughter's eyes, for a brief moment when the girls cried out of joy, Logan saw something he hadn't seen in days. He saw empathy fighting against jealousy, and for the first time, Logan felt that empathy might be stronger. It was Tuesday night. The snow had stopped falling, but it still covered the yard like a white blanket. Logan was in the kitchen finishing washing the dishes from dinner when he heard a strange sound from the living room. It wasn't crying exactly. It was more like a low whisper, followed by a sniffle. He dried his hands on the towel and went to see what was happening. He found Emily and Nora on the sofa, cuddled together. Emily was stroking Nora's hair, while Nora hugged the one-eared bear to her chest. "Is everything okay there?" Logan asked softly. Emily looked at him. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. Nora had a bad dream. Logan sat down in the armchair next to the sofa. Ivy had gone up to her room right after dinner, as she had been doing for the last few days. "Do you want to talk about the dream?" he asked Nora. Nora shook her head, hiding more into Emily's shoulder. "Can I tell him?" Emily asked softly to her sister. Nora lifted her little face and looked at Logan. Her blue eyes were full of tears. "Would he be mad?" she whispered. "Why would I be mad?" Logan asked, puzzled. "Because sometimes grown-ups get angry when we tell them bad things." Logan's heart tightened. What kind of life had these girls had for them to think telling the truth would make grown-ups angry? "I won't be mad," he said firmly. "So you can tell me anything." Emily took a deep breath. "Our stepfather used to yell a lot," she began. "He wasn't our real dad. Mom married him when we were very little." Logan leaned forward, giving her all his attention. At first he was nice, Emily continued. He brought us candy, but then he changed. How did he change? He started yelling at Mom. He said she did everything wrong, that the food was bad, that the house was dirty, that we made too much noise. Nora shifted in Emily's lap. He broke things, she said softly. Plates, cups. One time, he broke the bathroom mirror. Mom was scared of him, Emily continued. We saw her crying in her bedroom. She tried to hide it, but we knew. Logan felt anger growing in his chest but kept his voice calm. Did he hurt you? He asked. Emily shook her head. No. He only yelled at us. He said we were annoying, that we gave him too much trouble. But he never hit us. And your mother? Logan asked. Emily hesitated. One time we saw a bruise on her arm. She said she hit the table, but you didn't believe her. No, Logan clenched his fists, imagining a man yelling at two 5-year-old girls, terrorizing a woman who just wanted to protect her daughters. What happened next? Mom got sick, Emily said, her voice growing softer. She started getting very tired. She slept all day. She couldn't get out of bed. He got even angrier at her because of that, Nora added. He said she was faking. One night, Mom woke us up very quietly, Emily continued. She said we had to go. She had saved some money and we were going to a better place. We left very early when he was asleep, Nora said. Mom carried 2 bags and we walked to the bus station. Logan imagined the 3 of them walking in the early morning, running away from home like refugees. Where did you go? To a small apartment on the other side of the city, Emily replied. It was just 1 bedroom and a small kitchen, but Mom said we'd be safe there. And were you? For a while, yes. Mom got a job at a diner. We stayed home alone during the day, but she always came back at night. Did you go to school? Emily shook her head. Mom said it was dangerous, that he could find us if we went to school. Logan felt his chest tighten. 2 5-year-old girls, stuck in an apartment all day, afraid of being found. But then Mom got sick again, Emily continued, her voice dipping as tears began to flow. She'd come home from work very tired. Sometimes she couldn't even eat. She coughed a lot, Nora added, and got very hot, like she had a fever. We asked her to go to the doctor, but she said there wasn't money. That money was only for food and rent. Logan imagined Sarah getting sick, unable to see a doctor because of lack of money. The anger he felt toward the stepfather now extended to the system that let a mother die because she couldn't afford treatment. She kept getting worse, Emily said, tears running down her cheeks. One day she couldn't even get out of bed to work. We tried to take care of her, Nora whispered. We brought her water, tried to make food. But we didn't know how, Emily admitted. We were only 5. Logan wanted to hug them, but knew he needed to let them finish their story. She slept a lot. Sometimes she'd wake up and talk to us, but most of the time she just slept. And one day, Nora began but couldn't continue. One day she didn't wake up, Emily finished. We tried to wake her, shake her, but she wouldn't open her eyes. The living room fell silent. Logan felt tears welling in his own eyes. How long did you stay with her like that? 1 whole day, Emily replied. We didn't know what to do. We stayed waiting for her to wake up. But she wouldn't wake up, Nora whispered. Then we got scared. We left the apartment and wandered the streets. We didn't know where to go. Didn't you know anyone? Any relatives? Emily shook her head. Mom always said it was just her and us, that she didn't have family. And your biological father? We never met him. Mom said he left before we were born. Logan took a deep breath. 2 5-year-old girls, completely alone in the world. How did you survive on the streets? We slept in different places. In the park, in front of closed stores. Once a lady gave us food, but most of the time we were hungry. Until we found your car, Nora said. The door wasn't locked and it was warm inside. And you appeared, Emily finished. Logan was silent for a long moment, processing everything he'd heard. The story was harsher than he had imagined. 2 children who ran away from home to escape a violent man, who lost their mother due to lack of medical care, who survived alone on the streets. Emily, Nora, he said finally, I'm so sorry for what you went through. You're not going to send us away? Nora asked in a small voice. No, Logan replied without hesitation. You're not going anywhere. Promise? I promise. Emily hugged Nora tighter. Can we stay here forever? Logan looked at the two girls hugging on the sofa. Two children who had experienced more pain and suffering than any adult should endure. Two children who needed much more than just a roof over their heads. They needed safety, stability, love. They needed a family. Yes, he said, feeling a certainty grow inside him like never before. You can stay here forever. Emily began to cry with relief. Nora curled up even more in her sister's lap. Logan stood up and sat on the sofa beside them. He opened his arms, and for the first time they let him embrace them. There in the silent living room, with two little girls crying in his arms, Logan felt he had found his purpose once again. Sarah always said that life puts the right people on our path when we need them most. Maybe Emily and Nora needed him, but Logan was starting to realize that he needed them too. He needed to be a father again. He needed to have a family again. The next morning, after the conversation in the living room, Logan went downstairs and found Emily and Nora already awake, sitting on the sofa. There was something different in the air, as if the story they told the night before had lifted a weight from their shoulders. Good morning, girls, Logan said, heading straight to the kitchen to make coffee. Good morning, Emily replied, and for the first time her voice sounded lighter. Nora waved her hand, still hugging the bear, but with a small smile on her face. Logan made pancakes for the three of them. Ivy came down soon after, as always dressed and her hair neatly combed. She sat in her usual chair, far from the twins, but Logan noticed she didn't have that closed expression she'd had in recent days. After breakfast, Logan had to go upstairs to make some business calls. When he came down an hour later, he found a scene he didn't expect. Emily and Nora were sitting on the living room floor around the low coffee table. They had spread paper and a box of colored pencils Logan recognized. It was Ivy's. What are you doing? He asked, curious. Drawing, Emily replied, focused on the paper in front of her. Logan moved closer to look. Emily was drawing a woman with long hair and a blue dress. Nora was drawing the same figure, but with more childlike lines and different colors. Who is it? Logan asked, even though he already knew the answer. Our mum, Nora said softly. We always draw her when we're sad. To remember how beautiful she was, Emily added, choosing a pink pencil to color the woman's face in the drawing. Logan felt his chest tighten. The girls were drawing their dead mother, trying to keep her memory alive through simple colors and lines. She was very beautiful, he said gently. That's when he heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Ivy appeared in the living room, stopped at the entrance, and watched Emily and Nora drawing on the floor. For a moment, Logan thought she would go back up or turn the TV volume up as she usually did. But instead, Ivy stood there, watching. Emily looked up and saw Ivy. Hi, she said timidly. Ivy didn't respond, but she didn't leave the room either. We're drawing our mum, Emily explained, even though Ivy hadn't asked. Do you want to see? Ivy took a few cautious steps toward them, stopping at a safe distance. She looked at the drawings. Did she have long hair? Ivy asked softly. Yes, Nora replied, excited that Ivy was talking to them. And it was very soft. She let us brush it sometimes. Did she sing to you? Ivy asked, taking another step. She did, Emily said. Especially when we had nightmares. She knew a song about stars. Ivy was silent for a moment. My mom sang to us too, she said, almost whispering. Logan watched from the kitchen, not wanting to interrupt. It was the first time Ivy spoke about Sarah with the twins. Was your mom pretty? Nora asked. She was the most beautiful woman in the world, Ivy answered without hesitation. Mine too, Emily said with a sad smile. Ivy stood there for a few more minutes, watching Emily carefully color their mother's dress. Then, to everyone's surprise, she took another step forward. Can I take a pencil? She asked hesitantly. Emily looked at her, surprised, but soon smiled. Sure, there are plenty here. Ivy slowly bent down and took a yellow pencil from the box. She sat on the floor, opposite the table, keeping some distance but participating. She grabbed a blank sheet of paper and began to draw. Logan saw that she was drawing a woman too, Sarah, Brown hair, a big smile, a green dress. No words were spoken for several minutes. The three girls drew in silence, each focused on her own memory. But there was something different in the room's atmosphere. The silence was no longer tense or hostile. It carried a kind of mutual acceptance now. "What was your mum's favorite dress color?" Emily asked Ivy. "Green," Ivy replied. "She had a green dress that shimmered a bit." "My dad always said she looked like a princess when she wore it." "Our mum liked blue," Nora said. "She said it was the color of the sky." "And did you draw with her?" Ivy asked. "Sometimes." "When she wasn't too tired," Emily answered. Ivy nodded, as if she understood. Logan went upstairs to give the girls privacy. When he came down for lunch, they were still in the living room, but now there were more drawings spread out and the three were sitting closer to each other. "How about we stop to eat?" Logan suggested. "Already?" Ivy asked, looking surprised at how much time had passed. "Yes," Logan confirmed with a smile. During lunch, Ivy didn't sit in the farthest chair as she always did. She chose a chair between the twins and her usual spot. Not too close, but not isolated either. In the afternoon, Logan had to go out to handle some business at the company. When he returned late that afternoon, he found a scene that made him pause at the front door. The three girls had built a giant fort using blankets and cushions. They had tied blankets to the back of the sofa and the armchair, creating an improvised tent that took up half the living room, and they were all inside. Logan could hear laughter and conversations coming from the fort. He approached quietly. "No, Lily has to stay here to watch the house," Emily said, speaking on behalf of her doll. "And Rose will go get food in the forest," Nora added. "And popcorn will help," Ivy said. And Logan noticed she had brought her stuffed rabbit into the play. "Does Popcorn know how to hunt?" Emily asked, genuinely curious. "Rabbits don't hunt," Ivy answered with a giggle. "But she can help pick berries." Logan smiled. Ivy was laughing. He hadn't heard his daughter's laugh in over a week. "Girls," he called softly, "can I come into the fort?" "You can," came the chorus of voices. Logan bent down and entered the makeshift tent. Inside, the three girls were sitting in a circle with their dolls in the middle. They had spread out some of Ivy's toys, cars, building blocks, books. "What a great fort," Logan said, looking around. "I made it myself," Ivy said proudly. "Well, I helped them because they didn't know how to tie knots." "Ivy knows how to tie knots really well," Emily said admiringly. "My mom taught me," Ivy explained. "She always said every girl needed to know how to tie knots." "Our mom didn't know knots," Nora said. "She only knew how to cook and sing." "I can teach you," Ivy offered, and Logan saw surprise on Emily and Nora's faces. "You would?" Emily asked. "Of course." "It's easy." Logan left the fort and went to the kitchen to prepare dinner, but he could hear the girls talking and laughing. The sound filled the house in a way he hadn't heard in 2 years. It was the sound of childhood. When he called the girls for dinner, they came out of the fort with messy hair and rosy faces from laughing so much. "Dada, can we leave the fort up?" Ivy asked. "Of course, Princess." "And after dinner, can we play some more?" Emily wanted to know. "You can play until bedtime." After dinner, the girls went back to the fort. Logan stayed in the kitchen, washing dishes, listening to the sounds coming from the living room, laughter, conversation, the rustle of toys being moved. At one point, he heard music. Ivy had turned on the small radio on the shelf, and the three were singing along to a children's song. Then the music changed to something more upbeat, and Logan heard quick footsteps on the wooden floor. He peeked from the kitchen door and saw the three girls dancing on the living room rug. Ivy was teaching Emily and Nora some steps Sarah had shown her. The twins tried to imitate, stumbling and laughing when they messed up. "No, like this," Ivy said, demonstrating an arm movement. "Mom said you have to imagine you're flying." Emily and Nora tried again, this time keeping better rhythm. "We did it!" Nora shouted, jumping with joy. "So now you know how to dance like me," Ivy said, smiling. Logan leaned against the kitchen wall, moved with emotion. Ivy was sharing Sarah's memories with Emily and Nora. She was teaching them the things her mother had taught her. It was as if Sarah were there, present in the way Ivy cared for the twins, taught them, shared with them. When bedtime came, Logan went to the living room and found the three girls tidying up the toys together. Ivy was putting away her own toys, but she was also helping Emily and Nora with their dolls. "Time for bed, girls," Logan announced. "Already," the three complained in unison. "Yes, tomorrow you can play again." Emily and Nora headed to the sofa as usual. But Ivy stood in the middle of the room. "Dad," she called, "what's up, princess? Can they sleep in my room tonight?" Logan blinked, surprised. "In your room?" "Yes, on the floor. I can lend them some blankets." Emily and Nora looked at Ivy, then at Logan, then at each other, as if they couldn't believe what they were hearing. "If they want to," Logan said. "We do want to," Emily said quickly. "We do want to," Nora agreed. Ivy smiled, the first genuine smile Logan had seen on her since the twins arrived. "Then let's go. I'll show you my room." The three girls went upstairs together, talking quietly. Logan followed, carrying extra blankets. In Ivy's room, the girls made a corner on the floor for Emily and Nora to sleep. Ivy showed them her toys, her books, the clothes Sarah had sewn for her. "Did your mom make all this?" Emily asked, admiring Popcorn, the stuffed rabbit. "She did. She could sew really well." "You're lucky," Nora said. "You have so many things to remember her by." Ivy looked around her room, then at the twins. "You can play with my things," she said softly. "Whenever you want." "Really?" Emily asked. "Really? There are so many things for one person." Logan said goodnight to the three of them and went downstairs to the living room. The fort was still up, toys scattered on the floor, the radio playing softly. The house breathed childhood again. For the first time since Sarah died, Logan sat on the sofa and smiled. A genuine smile, from deep in his chest. Upstairs, he could hear the girls talking quietly before bed. Three little voices, three children who had found each other despite all the pain and loss. Ivy had spent a week building walls around her heart. But Emily and Nora, with their simple need for love and acceptance, had found a way to tear them down. Not with force or insistence, but with patience, with the silent understanding that they all had lost their mothers, that they all needed each other. Logan looked around the transformed living room and realized that Sarah had been right about the house. It had been built for a big family, and now finally it was complete. 3 weeks had passed since Emily and Nora arrived. 3 weeks of laughter filling the house, of games that went on until bedtime, of Ivy teaching the twins how to make braids and tie shoelaces. Logan was in the kitchen preparing lunch when he heard the doorbell ring. The girls were in the living room, building a castle with blocks. Ivy had lent all her building toys, and now the three were working together on increasingly elaborate projects. "Girls, can someone see who it is?" Logan called from the kitchen, stirring the marinara sauce. "I will," Ivy answered. Logan heard footsteps run to the front door, then Ivy's voice speaking to someone. "Daddy," she called. "There's a lady here who wants to talk to you." Logan turned off the stove and went to the door. He found a well-dressed middle-aged woman holding a clipboard with a serious expression on her face. "Mr. Logan Matthews?" she asked. "That's me. My name is Carol Henderson. I'm a social worker with the Child Welfare Department. I need to speak with you." Logan's stomach dropped. Ivy was next to him, looking curiously at the woman. From the living room, he could hear Emily and Nora quietly talking about where to put the next block in their castle. "What is this about?" Logan asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "We received a report that there are 2 children living in this house without proper documentation. May I come in?" Logan hesitated. He knew he couldn't refuse, but he also knew this visit would change everything. "Of course," he said, opening the door fully. The social worker entered and immediately saw Emily and Nora in the living room. The two had stopped playing and stared at the stranger with wide eyes. "Are these the children?" Carol asked, consulting her clipboard. "Yes," Logan replied. Emily slowly stood up, pulling Nora close to her. Logan recognized immediately the expression on their faces. It was the same expression they'd had when he first found them in his car. Pure fear. "Girls, come here," Logan called softly. Emily and Nora approached, clinging to each other. Ivy stood next to Logan, not fully understanding but feeling the tension in the air. "What are your names?" Carol asked the twins. crouching to be at their level. "Emily," replied the first, her voice small and scared. "Nora," whispered the second, hiding behind her sister. "And where are your parents?" Emily looked at Logan, then back at the social worker. "Our mom died," she said softly. "And your father?" "We never met him." Carol made notes on her clipboard. "Mr. Matthews, how long have these children been living here?" 3 weeks, Logan answered honestly. "Do you have any legal documentation? Authorization to care for them?" Logan felt his world collapse. "No," he admitted. "I found them in an emergency situation and brought them home. They had nowhere to go." "I understand your intention, Mr. Matthews, but there are legal procedures that must be followed. I cannot allow children to be under unauthorized care." Emily began to tremble. Nora clutched at her sister's arm. "What does this mean?" Logan asked, even though he already knew the answer. "It means these children must be placed in state custody until the situation is regularized." "No!" Emily suddenly yelled. "We don't want to go away. We want to stay here," Nora cried. Ivy looked at the twins, then at her dad, then at the social worker. For the first time, she fully understood what was happening. "They can't take Emily and Nora," she said to Logan. "Sweetheart," Logan began. "No!" Ivy screamed. "They are my sisters." Carol looked at Ivy in surprise. "Your sisters?" "They are," Ivy insisted, grabbing Emily and Nora's hands. "They are my sisters, and they live here." Logan felt his chest tighten. Ivy was defending Emily and Nora as if they'd always been part of the family. "Miss," Carol said to Ivy gently, "I understand you've become friends, but there are rules that must be followed." "What rules?" Ivy asked, her voice filled with anger. "Rules that protect children," Carol explained. "These girls need to be in a place where someone has legal authorization to care for them." "My dad takes very good care of them," Ivy shouted. "He bought them dolls. He makes good food. He lets them sleep in my room." Emily and Nora were crying now, holding Ivy's hands. "Mr. Matthews," Carol said, "you can try to start an adoption or guardianship process, but until then, these children need to stay in a licensed shelter." "How long would that process take?" Logan asked. "Several months, maybe a year or more." Logan looked at Emily and Nora. A year. They would have to spend an entire year away from home, away from him, away from Ivy. "Please," Emily begged the social worker. "We promise to be good. We won't cause any trouble." "We just want to stay with Logan and Ivy," Nora sobbed. Carol sighed. Logan could see she didn't like this situation, but she was just doing her job. "Girls, you didn't do anything wrong. But I need to make sure you're safe and in an appropriate place." "We're safe here," Emily protested. "I know you feel safe," Carol said patiently, "but the law requires certain steps." Logan knelt in front of Emily and Nora. "Girls, I will do everything I can to bring you back home as quickly as possible," he said. "You promise?" Emily asked between sobs. "I promise. But you promised that we could stay forever," Nora said, her voice breaking. Those words hit Logan like a painful echo. He had promised. On the night they told their story, he promised they could stay forever. "I will keep my promise," he said firmly. "It will just take a little longer." Carol approached. "Girls, you need to get some clothes. I will take you to a place where you will be well cared for until everything is resolved." "We don't want to go," Ivy yelled, still holding the twins' hands. "They stay here." "Ivy," Logan said softly, "let Daddy handle this." "No, you promised they could stay. You lied again." Logan felt his heart shatter. Ivy was right. He had promised. And now he was breaking that promise, just like he did when he brought Emily and Nora home without telling her first. Emily and Nora went upstairs to Ivy's room to collect their few belongings. The dolls Logan had bought, some clothes he had gotten for them, Nora's one-eared bear. When they came downstairs, the 3 girls were crying. "You can visit them," Carol said, trying to comfort them. "And if the adoption process is approved, you'll be able to live together again." "If," Ivy asked, "if it doesn't work out?" Carol didn't answer, but her expression said it all. A social services car was parked in front of the house. Logan carried the small suitcase with Emily and Nora's things. Neighbors had come to their windows and were watching the scene from their porches and gardens. That's when Logan saw Mrs. Wilson from the house next door, quietly talking to another neighbor and pointing at him. The look of satisfaction on her face said everything he needed to know. She had made the report. At the car door, Emily and Nora clung to Logan. "Will we come back home?" Emily asked, tears streaming down her face. "You will," Logan promised, hugging the two. "I will do everything it takes to bring you back." "You promised we could stay forever," Nora cried. "You promised." The words echoed painfully in Logan's mind. He had promised. And now he watched two little girls who had already lost everything being taken away again. Ivy ran to the twins and hugged them tight. "I will miss you," she said, crying too. "We will miss you too," Emily replied. "You will always be my sisters," Ivy said, "even if we're apart." Carol opened the car door. Emily and Nora got in slowly, looking back until the last moment. "Logan," Emily called from the car window. "You promised." The car drove away, taking Emily and Nora far away. Logan and Ivy stood on the sidewalk, watching until the car disappeared around the corner. The house fell silent. A different silence from the one Logan knew. It was an empty silence, broken. Logan looked at the living room. The block castle was still in the middle of the floor, unfinished. Emily and Nora's dolls had been left on the sofa. They were so frightened they forgot to take them. "Dad," Ivy said softly, "will you really bring them back?" Logan looked at his daughter. Her face was red from crying, her eyes swollen. "I will," he said. "I will do everything it takes. Promise." Logan thought of all the promises he had made and broken. He promised Ivy it would always be just the two of them. He promised Emily and Nora they could stay forever. But this time, he knew he could not break the promise. "I promise," he said. That night, the house returned to the silence Logan had known before the twins arrived. But now it was worse, because it was no longer the silence of mourning Sarah's death. It was the silence of losing two children who were still alive, but far away from home. Ivy cried in her room until she fell asleep. Logan stayed in the living room, looking at the scattered toys, at the fort still set up in the corner. The pain of mourning had returned, but in a new and cruel form. It was the pain of having a family and losing it again. But this time, Logan would not accept the loss. This time, he was going to fight. On the Monday after Emily and Nora were taken away, Logan was in lawyer David Chen's office at exactly 8 in the morning. He had spent the weekend researching, making calls, figuring out what he needed to do to bring the girls back home. "Mr. Matthews," David said, flipping through the papers Logan had brought. "You understand this is a complex and lengthy process." "I do," Logan replied. "But I'm willing to do whatever it takes. The adoption process can take 6 months to 2 years, depending on many factors." Logan felt his stomach tighten. 2 years. Emily and Nora would be away from home for 2 years. Is there a way to speed it up? "We can argue that you already have a bond with the children, and they're well adapted in your home. But the system prefers caution when it comes to child placement." David picked up a pen and began taking notes. "I'll need personal references, financial statements, medical reports, psychological evaluations. The court will want to know everything about your ability to parent these children." "Whatever you need," Logan said without hesitation. Over the next 2 weeks, Logan dedicated himself completely to the process. He gathered bank statements showing his financial stability, obtained letters of recommendation from colleagues and close friends. He underwent a detailed psychological evaluation with Dr. Rebecca Foster, who asked questions about his ability to handle children's trauma and raise 2 kids who'd been through difficult situations. "Mr. Matthews," Dr. Foster said during their second session, "why do you want to adopt Emily and Nora?" Logan thought of the question. "Because they need a family. And because we need them too." "Can you explain that better?" "After my wife died, our house became very quiet, very empty. Emily and Nora brought life back. Not just for me, but especially for Ivy. She turned into an amazing big sister." The doctor made notes. "How do you intend to handle the traumas these children carry?" "With patience, with love, and with professional help if necessary. Logan also went through interviews with social workers who visited his home, assessed living conditions, and checked if there was adequate space for 2 more children. They examined the room Logan had prepared for Emily and Nora: 2 new beds, a wardrobe, a study desk. "Mr. Matthews," said social worker Margaret Torres during the visit, "the house is certainly suitable, but I'm concerned about you being a single father to 3 children." "I've raised Ivy alone for the past 2 years," Logan responded, "and I have resources to hire help if necessary. Children need emotional stability, not just financial. They have that with me, and they have each other." Ivy was struggling during this entire process. Since the twins were taken away, she barely ate, didn't play, and spent hours staring out the window as if she expected them to appear on the sidewalk. "Dad," she said one morning as she poked at her cereal without eating, "are the girls okay at the shelter?" "I'm sure they are, Princess." "Do they miss us?" Logan knelt beside her chair. "They miss the 2 of us a lot, just as much as we miss them." "When will they come back?" "I'm doing everything I can to make it as soon as possible." Ivy was silent for a moment. "Dad, can I help in any way?" Logan looked at his daughter. In recent days, she had grown up by years. The girl who cried because she had to share their father's attention was now desperate to bring her sisters back home. "You can. You can help me show the judge how important Emily and Nora are to our family." "How?" "By telling our story, talking about how you became sisters." Ivy nodded determinedly. "I can do that." In school, Ivy talked to her teacher, Mrs. Martinez, about the situation. The teacher, who had known Ivy before Sarah's death, offered to help her write a letter to the court. "Ivy told me about her sisters," Mrs. Martinez said to Logan when he picked her up from school. "It's a very special situation. I'll help her put her feelings on paper." During recess, while the other children played on the playground, Ivy sat in the classroom with the teacher and began writing. "What do you want to say to the judge?" the teacher asked. Ivy thought for a moment. "I want to say that Emily and Nora are my true sisters, that they complete our family." "That's a beautiful line, Ivy." "Let's start there," Ivy dictated, and the teacher helped put it on paper. "Dear Judge, my name is Ivy Matthews, and I am 5 years old. I want to talk about Emily and Nora, who are my sisters. I know they didn't come from the same mother as me, but that doesn't matter. They are my sisters from the heart. When Emily and Nora came to our house, I felt jealous. I was afraid my dad would love them more than me. But then I realized that having sisters is the best thing in the world. Emily taught me how to do different braids. Nora taught me a song that their mother used to sing. They helped me not miss my mom so much, because I have them to take care of me now. I share my toys with them. They sleep in my room. We play together, eat together, watch cartoons together. They are my real sisters. I don't want to grow up without them. Please let us stay together. Our family needs them. I need them. They have already lost their mother. Don't let them lose our family too. Please." Ivy Matthews. When Logan read the letter that night, he had to step away so he wouldn't cry in front of Ivy. "Is it good, Dad?" "It's perfect, Princess. The judge will understand how much you love your sisters." Logan attached the letter to the adoption paperwork, along with the psychological reports, references, financial documents, and all other evidence that he could provide a safe, loving home for Emily and Nora. During the weeks of preparation, Logan visited the girls at the shelter whenever they allowed. They seemed smaller each time, quieter, as if part of their light was dimming while they were away from home. "When are we going back home?" Emily would ask every time. "Soon," Logan would answer. "I'm doing all I can." "You promise?" "I promise." David Chen reviewed all the documents one last time before officially filing the adoption petition. "Mr. Matthews, we've done everything we can. Now we wait for the court's response." "How long?" "A few weeks for the initial review. Then they'll schedule a hearing." Logan left the lawyer's office feeling a mix of hope and anxiety. He had done everything right, followed all the procedures, demonstrated that he could be a good father to Emily and Nora. Now it was up to the legal system to agree with what his heart already knew, that those 2 girls belonged in his family. That night, Ivy asked, "Dad, will the judge let Emily and Nora come back home?" Logan looked at the letter she had written, still on the kitchen table. "I think so, Princess. I think when the judge reads your letter, she'll understand that the three of you are a real family." Ivy smiled for the first time in weeks. "I hope so. I missed my sisters so much." Logan missed them too. The house felt too quiet, too empty without Emily and Nora. But he had fought with every tool he had. Now he could only hope it would be enough. After 6 weeks of preparation, documents, interviews, and waiting, finally came the day of the first hearing. Logan put on his best suit. Ivy wore the blue dress Sarah had bought for her, and they went to the courthouse. David Chen met them at the entrance. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Ready," Logan replied, holding Ivy's hand. The courtroom was smaller than Logan expected. Judge Patricia Williams, a woman with gray hair and a serious expression, presided behind a high bench. Emily and Nora sat in the front row with Carol Henderson, the social worker. When the twins saw Logan and Ivy enter, their faces lit up. "Logan," Emily whispered, waving. "Ivy." Nora tried to stand, but Carol made her sit down again. Logan waved back, his heart aching. Emily and Nora looked smaller, thinner. They wore clothes that weren't theirs, generic shelter outfits. The hearing began. David Chen presented Logan's case, spoke about his financial stability, his capacity to parent, and the bond already established with the girls. "Your Honor," David said, "Mr. Matthews can not only provide a safe home for Emily and Nora, but he has already proven that they are part of his family. His daughter, Ivy, considers them her sisters." The judge looked at Ivy. "Ivy, could you come forward?" Ivy stood and walked to the front. Logan saw she was nervous but determined. "Ivy, do you want Emily and Nora to live with you?" "Yes, Your Honor," she replied. "And why?" "Because they are my sisters. We care for each other. We play together. They help me not feel so alone." The judge nodded and picked up Ivy's letter. "Did you write this?" she asked. "I did. With help from my teacher." The judge read the letter in silence. Logan saw her expression soften slightly. "This is a very beautiful letter, Ivy. Thank you." Ivy returned to her seat. The judge began flipping through the documents when the courtroom door opened. A man entered. Tall, thin, disheveled hair, wrinkled clothes. He wasn't wearing a suit and had no lawyer. He had an arrogant look and a crooked smile. Emily and Nora shrank in their seats. Logan saw terror in their eyes. "Sorry I'm late," the man said loudly and disrespectfully. "I came to pick up what's mine." The judge frowned. "And who are you?" "I'm Rick Santos, stepfather of these girls, ex-husband of their mother." Logan felt anger boil in his chest like lava. This was the man who had terrorized Emily, Nora, and their mother. The man who abandoned them when their mom died. "Mr. Santos," the judge said coldly, "you weren't listed as an interested party in this case." "Well, I'm here now," Rick said, plopping into a chair, "and I want my stepdaughters back." Emily began to tremble. Nora jumped up from her chair and ran to Ivy, hiding behind her. "They're my sisters," Ivy said loudly, looking directly at Rick. "They stay with me." Rick laughed. "Sisters? These girls aren't sisters to anyone. They're orphans, and I'm the closest relative they have." Logan felt his blood boil. "Sir, you abandoned these children when their mother died," Logan said, standing up. "I didn't abandon anyone," Rick retorted. "I just needed time to process my wife's death." 6 months, David Chen interjected. "You needed 6 months to process," the judge rapped her gavel. "This situation has become more complex," she said. "I will need time to evaluate all legal options." Logan felt his world collapse. 2 more weeks. Emily and Nora would remain in the shelter. Rick stood abruptly. "I'll be back at the next hearing. And you'll see who has legal rights to these children." He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The following 2 weeks were the longest of Logan's life. He knew Rick was being investigated, but he also knew that man had legal rights as their ex-stepfather. David Chen worked day and night, gathering evidence about Rick's abandonment, financial instability, and history of aggression. "I got statements from neighbors at their old apartment," David said. 3 people confirmed they heard frequent yelling and arguments. One neighbor said they saw bruises on the girl's mother. "Is that enough?" "I hope so." But Rick also got an attorney. Not a great one, but he will try to use the law in his favor. On the morning of the final hearing, Logan arrived early at the courthouse. He was walking toward the entrance when he heard a voice behind him. "Hey, Matthews!" Logan turned. Rick Santos was leaning against an old car, smoking a cigarette. "I need to talk to you," Rick said, flicking the cigarette onto the ground. Logan stopped but kept his distance. "We have nothing to discuss." "Oh, we do," Rick said with a cynical grin. "You like those girls, don't you?" Logan said nothing. "Look, I'll be straightforward," Rick continued. "I don't want to keep running to court, lawyers. All that boring bureaucracy." "Then give up custody," Rick laughed. "It's not that simple, but maybe we can make a deal." Logan felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of deal?" "You like them, right? Then pay up," Rick said bluntly. "Give me a good amount and I'll disappear. I'll sign any paper you want." Logan froze. The man was trying to sell Emily and Nora. "Give me 50,000 and I'll be gone forever," Rick continued. "I don't even want them. They were always a burden." Logan was in absolute shock. How could someone speak of two children like that? How could someone be so cruel? But he didn't argue. He didn't shout. He didn't lose his composure. He just looked Rick in the eyes and said, "You don't even deserve their name on your lips." Rick shrugged. "Then let the judge decide. But you'll lose. I'm the closest relative." Logan turned and walked into the courthouse. In his chest, he felt a mix of disgust and determination. Rick Santos had just revealed his true self. In the courtroom, Logan found David Chen. "David, I need to tell you something." Logan recounted the entire conversation in the parking lot. David took quick notes. "This changes everything," David said. "I'll use it at the hearing." When the hearing began, Rick was present with his attorney, a man who looked tired and clearly wasn't prepared for the case. The judge called Rick to testify first. "Mr. Santos, why do you want custody of Emily and Nora?" "Because they are my stepdaughters. I took care of them when their mother was alive." "Did you abandon these children after their mother died?" "I did not abandon. I was grieving." David Chen stood. "Your Honor, I'd like to report a conversation that took place this morning in the parking lot." David described Rick's attempt at blackmail. The courtroom fell silent. "Mr. Santos," the judge said with a cold voice, "do you confirm you offered to relinquish custody in exchange for money?" Rick turned pale. That was a misunderstanding." "Misunderstood how?" Rick's attorney tried to intervene but was clearly out of his depth. The judge then called Emily and Nora forward. "Girls, can you tell me with whom you want to live?" Emily looked at Rick, then at Logan. "We want our daddy," she said clearly. "The dad who chose us, not the one who abandoned you." "No," Nora said firmly. "We want Logan and Ivy." "Why do you want to live with Mr. Matthews?" "Because he takes care of us," Emily replied. "He makes good food, buys toys, lets us play. He hugs us when we're sad." "And Mr. Santos, do you want to live with him?" Both shook their heads vigorously. "He's mean," Nora said. "He made Mom cry." The judge looked at Rick with contempt, then at Logan. "Mr. Matthews, please come forward." Logan stood up. "Do you want to adopt Emily and Nora?" "I do, Your Honor." "Why?" "Because they are my daughters, not on paper, but in my heart, and because they deserve a family that loves them unconditionally." The judge remained silent for a long moment, studying the documents before her. "Considering all factors presented," she said finally, "especially Mr. Santos's demonstrated abandonment, his inappropriate attempt at blackmail, and the clear wishes of the children." Logan held his breath. "I grant the adoption of Emily and Nora Matthews to Mr. Logan Matthews." The courtroom erupted in silent applause. Logan felt tears welling in his eyes. Ivy screamed with joy. Emily and Nora ran to him. "It's official," Emily asked, hugging Logan. "It's official," he replied. "You are my daughters now." Rick stood abruptly and left the room without a word. Logan hugged the three girls, his three daughters, in the middle of the courtroom. Ivy was crying tears of happiness. Emily and Nora clung to him as if they would never let go. "Can we go home now?" Nora asked. "We can go home," Logan confirmed. Finally, after months of struggle, they were safe. They were a family. 6 months after the final hearing, Logan woke up on the first day of school for the girls with a feeling he hadn't had in years: complete peace. The house had been full of life since Emily and Nora returned for good. There were no more empty silences, no more feeling that something was missing. The mansion finally breathed, as Sarah always said it should breathe, like a home for a big family. "Daddy!" Ivy screamed from upstairs. "Emily can't find her backpack." "It's in my room," Logan called back, smiling as he prepared 3 lunchboxes in the kitchen. 3 lunchboxes, something so simple that made him happy every day. Emily ran into the kitchen, already dressed in her school uniform, a white blouse and a navy blue skirt, high white socks. Her blonde hair was tied in 2 braids that Ivy had taught her to do. "I found it," she said, waving a new backpack, pink with gold stars, chosen by her in the store. "Great. Where's your sister?" Emily smiled every time Logan referred to Nora as your sister. Even after months, she still got emotional about being part of a real family. "Nora is trying to decide which doll to take to school," Emily answered, grabbing an apple from the fruit bowl. "And Ivy? She's brushing her teeth. She said she wants to be perfect for her first day as an official big sister." Logan laughed. Ivy took her role as big sister very seriously. She had become protective and caring with Emily and Nora, always making sure they had what they needed. Nora came downstairs running, also in uniform, carrying her one-eared bear in her hand. "Daddy, can I take Brownie to school?" Logan knelt to be at her level. Nora had started calling him Daddy naturally, a few weeks after coming home. Emily still switched between Logan and Daddy, but Logan didn't pressure her. She'd say it when she felt ready. "How about leaving Brownie at home to take care of your other dolls?" Logan suggested. "They'll miss him." Nora thought seriously about the idea. "That's true. Lily gets sad when she's alone." "Exactly. And you'll be so busy making new friends you won't have time to play with him." "All right," Nora agreed, kissing the bear. "Stay home, Brownie. See you after school." Ivy came down, impeccable as always. Her hair was perfectly styled, her uniform neat, her backpack organized. "Good morning, family," she said solemnly. "Good morning, big sister," Emily replied teasingly. Ivy smiled. She loved when Emily and Nora called her big sister. "Are you two ready? Are you sure you didn't forget anything?" Emily and Nora checked their backpacks for the 3rd time. "Ready," they said in unison. Logan finished preparing the lunchboxes and gave one to each girl. Ivy's lunch: turkey and cheese sandwich, apple, chocolate cookies. "Thank you, Daddy." Ivy's lunch, Logan's lunch. Go ahead," Emily said, then corrected herself. "Thank you, Daddy." Logan smiled. She was getting there. "And Emily's lunch: peanut butter and jelly sandwich, grapes, blueberry muffin." "Thank you, Logan," Emily said, then quickly added, "Thank you, Daddy." Logan laughed. She was getting the hang of it. "And Nora's lunch: cheese sandwich, strawberries, oatmeal cookies." "Thank you, Daddy. You're the best daddy in the world." "I am," Logan asked, feigning surprise. "You are," all 3 replied together. In the car, the girls chatted excitedly about their first day of school. Ivy already knew the school, so she was explaining to Emily and Nora how everything worked. "Our teacher is Mrs. Martinez. She's really nice," Ivy said. "And there's a huge library with millions of books." "Millions? Really?" Nora asked, impressed. "Well, maybe not millions, but a lot." "Will there be other kids our age?" Emily asked. "Yes, and you'll make friends in no time." Logan watched them in the rearview mirror. 6 months ago, Ivy was jealous of sharing his attention. Now she was the biggest advocate for her sisters. When they arrived at the school, Logan parked and turned to the girls. "Ready for the big day?" "We're ready," they shouted. Logan took the camera he had brought. He wanted to capture that moment. The first day of school for the 3 sisters. "Can you come out and stand in front of the gate? I want to take a picture." The girls stepped out of the car and positioned themselves in front of the school. Logan looked through the camera lens and saw 3 radiant girls, in uniform, with colorful backpacks, big smiles on their faces. "First day of school for the 3 sisters," Logan said, clicking the photo. At the moment he said those words, the 3 spontaneously hugged each other. Ivy in the middle, Emily and Nora on either side. They laughed, swayed, and made faces at the camera. Logan took several photos, but he knew that the first one would be special forever. "Now you can go," he said. "Have fun." The three ran toward the gate, holding hands. Logan watched them until they disappeared inside the building. Throughout that day at work, Logan couldn't focus completely. He kept thinking about how Emily and Nora were doing, if they were making friends, if they were happy. When it was time to pick them up, he arrived at the school 15 minutes early. The three girls emerged together, chatting animatedly. "Daddy!" Nora shouted, running to him. "School is amazing." "Did you make friends?" Logan asked, lifting her onto his hip. "I did. There's Sophia, Anna, and Pedro. They're so nice." "And you, Emily?" "I made friends too. And the teacher said I draw really well." "Of course you draw well. You've always drawn well." Ivy approached with a proud smile. "Daddy, my sisters were the most popular kids in class today." "Were they?" "Yes. Everyone wanted to be friends with them. And when someone asked if we were real sisters, I said yes." "Because we are real sisters," Emily added. "That's true," Nora agreed. On the drive home, the girls told every detail of their day, the games at recess, the lessons they learned, the new friends they made. "Daddy," Ivy said suddenly, "can you teach us to make that special dinner tonight? To celebrate our first day." "What special dinner?" "The one you used to make for Mom on birthdays, with pasta and red sauce." Logan felt a twinge in his chest. Ivy rarely spoke about Sarah, but when she did, it was always with affection. "Of course, Princess. Let's make Mom's special dinner." At home, the four of them went to the kitchen. Logan taught the girls how to make the tomato sauce Sarah loved, explained how to season the pasta, how to know when it was just right. Mom said cooking was a way to show love, Ivy explained to Emily and Nora as they stirred the sauce. "Our mom said that too," Emily replied. "She made a porridge that was really good when we were sick." "All moms know how to cook with love," Nora said seriously. "And dads do too," Ivy added, looking at Logan. "Daddy cooks with a lot of love." During dinner, the girls didn't stop talking about their plans for the next day, about the friends they wanted to introduce to each other, about the projects they would do together at school. "Tomorrow, I'm going to show everyone the drawing Emily made," Ivy said. "And I'll tell them about the fort we make at home," Emily added. "And I'll say I have two sisters," Nora said proudly. After dinner, Logan helped the girls with their homework, just a little bit on the first day, only some drawings and simple exercises. At bedtime, the three went to their rooms. Ivy slept in her own room, and Emily and Nora shared the room Logan had prepared especially for them. 2 beds with matching quilts, a study desk, shelves filled with books and toys. Logan said goodnight to each one. "Good night, Princess," he said to Ivy. "How was being a big sister today?" "It was amazing, Daddy. I like taking care of them. You're a wonderful big sister. Daddy, what's up? Do you think Mom would like my sisters?" Logan sat on the edge of her bed. "I'm sure she would. Mom always wanted you to have siblings. Then she's happy up in heaven." "She's very happy." Ivy smiled and snuggled into her pillow. "Good night, Daddy." "Good night, my love." In Emily and Nora's room, Logan found the two talking quietly in their beds. "What are you talking about?" he asked. "About how nice our first day was," Emily answered. "And how lucky we are to have a family," Nora added. Logan sat between the 2 beds. "You think you're lucky?" "We do," Emily said. "Because we have you, Ivy, this house, our new school, and because we don't have to be afraid anymore," Nora finished. "You will never have to be afraid again," Logan promised. "You're home now." "Forever?" Emily asked. "Forever?" After he said goodnight to them, Logan went downstairs to the living room. He looked around the house that was now truly alive. Toys scattered, drawings pinned to the fridge, 3 school backpacks by the front door. There was something new on the living room wall that hadn't been there that morning, a framed drawing the girls had made together. 4 people holding hands, surrounded by hearts and stars. Underneath, written in big, colorful letters, "Our family." Logan sat on the sofa and looked at the drawing. 4 people, him, Ivy, Emily, and Nora. A complete family. He thought of everything that had happened since that snowy night when he found two little girls sleeping in his car. He thought of Ivy's initial resistance, of the legal battle, of the moments of fear when he thought he might lose Emily and Nora. But mostly, he thought of how love had grown naturally among them, how Ivy had turned from a jealous girl into a protective big sister, how Emily and Nora had gone from frightened children to confident, happy girls, how he himself had rediscovered the joy of being a father. Logan looked at the photo of the first day of school he had developed and placed on the table. 3 girls in uniform, hugging, smiling at the camera. His 3 daughters. He picked up the phone and called David Chen. "David, this is Logan." "Logan, how was the girls' first day of school?" "Perfect. They're radiant. That's wonderful. How are the final adoption papers?" "All signed and filed. Emily and Nora Matthews are officially my daughters." "That's such great news, Logan. You all deserve this happiness." "David, I wanted to thank you for everything." "I just did my job." "No, you did much more than that. You fought for a family." After hanging up, Logan stayed in the living room a while longer, just enjoying the silence that was now not empty, but full of love and peace. He remembered Sarah saying that life had a funny way of giving second chances when you least expect it. She was right. Emily and Nora were not just a second chance for him. They were a second chance for the whole family, for Ivy to learn to be a sister, for the house to be a home again, for Logan to rediscover that his heart could still grow. He went upstairs to his bedroom and, before falling asleep, looked out the window at the street where it all began, where 2 little girls in desperate need of help found shelter in the back seat of his car. Now they slept safely in their own beds, in their own home as part of their own family. Logan smiled in the darkness. "I didn't buy their love," he whispered to himself. "It found me and transformed me." And for the first time in years, Logan slept with his heart completely at peace, knowing he would wake up the next day in a house filled with life, love, and laughter. In a house that was finally a complete home. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.